Hey everybody, this is BlueZ here from the Token Minorities. I'm back to do a little showdown battling with you guys. I've taken some more videos of me doing some showdown battling, and I'm here to bring you guys the videos and to do some commentary over those battles. So if you guys watched the original battle video that I did for the channel, you'll notice I'll be using the same team in this battle and in the next couple of battles that I've been doing on Showdown. If you want to take a look at that first video to refresh yourself with the team, I'll put a link to that video in the description below. But as a refresher, I'm using Greninja, Tentacruel, Charizard Y, Sylveon, Hippowdon, and Breloom. So in the next couple of videos I'll be using those sets, and I don't think their movesets or their EV stats have been changing at all. So without further ado, we're going to head right into the battle. We're going to start that right now. So as you see, I'm actually the guy on the right. I'm across the field, so he starts with Greninja, and I bring out Breloom. I'm hoping that I can just get an insta-kill right off with a Bullet Seed, so I use a Bullet Seed, and thankfully he brings out his Melodic. And I'm able to predict that he won't switch, and I use a nice Mach Punch to take out his Melodic. So he sends out Latias, and I want to get my Breloom right out of there, hopefully to bring up my Sash. So I use Sylveon as a nice special defensive wall against his Latias. But he uses Mawile, he brings out Mawile to hopefully use some physical type moves, maybe a steel move here or there to take out my Sylveon, so I switch out to my Hippowdon. Now Hippowdon's going to be a great wall to Mawile, but still I'm going to want to take him out of there. But I use Slack off of my Hippowdon to bring back up my health, and then I use Stealth Rock. Interestingly enough, so does his Garchomp, but he brings out Latias, and I'm guessing he's going to use a Water-type move on my Hippowdon, so he switches, I Whirlwind, and he brings out his Mawile. And I'm just going to do a little Whirlwinding here, which is always fun. He's going to keep trying to switch back into his Latias, which is going to be one of his only counters against my Hippowdon, probably because he's using Surf on his Latias. But I just keep whirlwinding around, slacking off when I need to. And this is an interesting mechanic I've been playing with, especially when Hippowdon isn't usually a huge key player in my team. I can usually just use it to do some damage against his team to beat up my opponent's team for a little bit, so that when I do bring out my power players, it's much easier. So he ends up bringing out his Tyranitar, and thankfully I predict that his Tyranitar can't do much to my Hippowdon, only a few crunches here and there, so I can just slack that off nice and easy. And finally he switches into his Latias, which is a good prediction on his part, because I was going to go for another Earthquake, and so he's immune to that. And he tries to use a Psyshock, which doesn't end up doing much. Now here's a problem. His Greninja ends up coming out, so I want to get my Hippowdon out of there and use Sylveon as a nice special defensive wall against him again. As you see, what's happening here is I'm pretty low on health, and so I'm going to try to Wish. Thankfully, I hold on with 2% health left when he uses the Ice Beam. He's probably going to want that accuracy more than anything over Hydro Pump just to make sure to get the kill, but thankfully I get to use Wish and a Protect to get all my health back, and he's going to use U-Turn to switch out into Mawile, which again is going to be a huge problem for my Sylveon. So Sylveon gets the nice Wish. He's going to Wish again and use Protect, and Mawile gets a Swords Dance up, which is really bad for me. So I'm going to bring out my Tentacruel. He's going to hold on with 4% health, and he's going to want to use Haze. He isn't that crucial in this battle beyond that. He wasn't able to use Rapid Spin, which is kind of bad for my team, especially bad for my Charizard. But at least I knocked that Swords Dance off of Mawile. In retrospect, I probably would have preferred to use Hippowdon's Whirlwind to take that off, which I end up doing here. And it did come at the cost of losing my Charizard in the mix. But again, I bring up my Hippowdon to keep using Whirlwinds on this team, which is going to prove to be very useful. Thankfully, I Whirlwind into his Tyranitar, which again isn't going to be a huge threat. But he brings out his Greninja again, and I slack off. And for some reason, I feel like I can stand up to his Greninja, but of course, even at 100% health, a Hydro Pump from Greninja OHKOs my Hippowdon really nice and easy. So I bring up my Breloom, hopefully to get a Mach Punch off, but he switches into his Latias, which is going to be a problem. It's just going to suck that damage right up. And honestly, at this point, I figure my Breloom isn't going to be much more help. His Sash is already broken. I could switch into Sylveon and try to Wish into Breloom, but that's going to be too hard, especially with Rocks up, so he's pretty much useless to me. So hopefully I can hold on with just my Greninja and my Sylveon left. He switches into his Greninja, and I use a nice little hyper voice just to take him out. And at that point, right before that, it was 2 against 5, which was very unfavorable for me. And he brings out Mawile and is able to take out my Sylveon with a Play Rough. But Greninja comes out, and he is just going to use one of his 100% accuracy moves, Ice Beam, to ensure that kill on Mawile. T-Tar isn't going to be much of a problem for Greninja, so I take him out right away with Greninja. And Latias comes out, and hopefully a U-turn will do the trick, especially a physical move against a especially defensive Pokemon like that. That'll be really helpful. Of course, his last Pokemon is Garchomp, but that's going to be a no-brainer for Greninja. That'll be really easy for me to predict the outspeed and to use Ice Beam. Again, my opponent forfeits. I don't really need to worry about that, but it would have been an easy turnaround seeing as Greninja outspeeds. Especially if he's using something like Mega Garchomp, in which case he wouldn't have a Sash, or he doesn't have any priority moves on him. So that match ended up working out for me in the end, and I'm finding that using tactics like Damage Calculator along with matches really helps me figure out what my best risk evaluations are in these matches. So I'm going to keep running this team. There are still a couple changes in movesets and EVs that I'm making here or there, but ultimately I hope to be able to keep climbing in the Showdown ladder. So I hope you guys continue to watch these videos. Like the video, subscribe to the Token Minorities if you haven't already. Favorite the video if you really like it. Of course, if you ever want to battle me or any of the other Token Minorities in Showdown, you're more than welcome to challenge us. We welcome any challenges that you guys have for us. My username on Showdown is always MockZ, M-O-C-K-Z. Just type # user space MockZ into the chat, and you should be able to find me and challenge me. That being said, if you guys want to comment in the section below about what you thought about the match, if you have any suggestions, feel free to do so. And if you guys have any stories about using maybe a low accuracy move like Fire Blast, or Hydro Pump, in which it really determined the match whether you hit or miss, I'd really like to hear about those stories. I'm going back and forth between using Flamethrower or Fire Blast on my Charizard, and I'd like to hear how your guys' experiences with low accuracy moves like those have really affected your battle outcomes. That being said, I'm BlueZ from the Token Minorities, and I'll see you guys around. See ya!